Welcome to Starwatch Now, your front row seat to all the hottest gossip, drama, and breaking news from the world of entertainment. If it's trending, shocking, or star-studded, we're covering it. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Some moments don't need words. They don't need music, confessions, or even touch. All it takes is one glance, and everything changes. It was supposed to be just another awards night. The lights were dazzling, the celebrities were dressed in perfection, and the cameras were rolling. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until they appeared. Wong Iba, the icy enigma known for his poker face and polished presence, and Xiao Zhan, the warm, charismatic actor who had captured millions of hearts since their legendary performance in The Untamed, were seen together again, after what felt like a lifetime. No dramatic reunion was expected. No one was waiting for a headline-making gesture. But what unfolded in those few minutes on stage was more powerful than any scripted drama. It was raw. It was real. And for the fans who had followed them through thick and thin, it was absolutely earth-shattering. As Xiao Zhan entered the frame, his body language was calm, collected, a professional. Yet his eyes scanned quickly, as if looking for someone. And there he was, Iba standing silently nearby. Their eyes met for only a second, but that second stretched endlessly in the minds of fans. Wang Yibo didn't smile for the cameras. He didn't play to the crowd. He just looked, and something in that look spoke of longing, of nostalgia, maybe even regret. As he stood beside Xiao Zhan, something changed in his posture. A slight lean, a stillness that wasn't just performance. Then came the touch. Barely visible to anyone not paying attention, Iba reached out and brushed his hand against the edge of Xiao Zhan's sleeve. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't obvious. But it was intimate in the quietest, most heart-wrenching way. A silent message. Don't go. Stay. Just for a little longer. The room didn't erupt. There was no scream, no gasp. But in the fan communities across the internet, silence fell like a heavy blanket. This wasn't a shipper's fantasy. This wasn't fan service. It was vulnerability. And when Xiao Zhan gently touched Iba's back, steady, grounding, the moment solidified itself in the hearts of everyone watching. There were no tears on stage, but thousands were shed behind screens. Fans didn't just see two actors. They saw two souls who had shared something deeper, something still unspoken, and perhaps something never fully let go. That night, under the glitter of stage lights and the watchful gaze of millions, one quiet reunion said more than any press release ever could. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was a silent reckoning, a reminder that the strongest connections don't fade. They wait. He was always the mystery, the boy with the unreadable eyes, the artist who spoke more in silence than most do in speeches. Wang Yibo wasn't born to blend in. From the moment he entered the entertainment industry, there was something different about him. Not just his undeniable talent, whether it was in acting, dancing, singing, or racing, but something deeper. A stillness. A wall. In every interview, every red carpet appearance, every performance, he was precise, polished, composed. Fans called him cool, cold, even untouchable. He rarely smiled for no reason, never strayed off script, and kept his personal life locked behind a fortress of calm professionalism. But those who watched closely, really watched, began to notice something shift. In the months leading up to that fateful night with Xiao Zhan, Wang Yibo's demeanor grew heavier. He was still attending events, still delivering stunning performances, but something behind his eyes began to fade. Once sharp and alert, they now looked distant. Like he was there, but not truly present. Like he was carrying something no one else could see. The industry insiders whispered. Some blamed exhaustion from his relentless schedule, filming back-to-back dramas, preparing for music releases, practicing for dance tours. Others mentioned internal conflicts with management, the unbearable pressure of constant scrutiny, the loneliness that fame never quite warns you about. He didn't complain. He didn't react. But the change was unmistakable. He withdrew. Public appearances became fewer. His interactions with fans grew minimal. No controversies, no scandals, just absence. A quiet kind of disappearance. The kind that doesn't scream, but softly fades. Until someone notices you're not really there anymore. And yet, despite the silence, his fans never left. They noticed the smallest changes. The slight slouch in his posture. The way his hands fidgeted in interviews. The way he smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Then came that night. That one quiet, seemingly uneventful night. Until the cameras captured something that felt like truth. Standing next to Xiao Zhan, Yibo looked different. Not staged. Not composed. But raw. Present. Open. For the first time in a long time, it felt like Wong Iba wasn't performing. He was feeling. And that changed everything. Because when a man who never lets his guard down suddenly lowers it, even just for a second, it tells a story far deeper than any words ever could. That second of vulnerability cracked open the carefully constructed armor of Wong Iba's public persona. And through that crack we saw him. Not the idol. Not the brand. But the boy. The human. The soul. Sometimes the eyes hide more than the mouth could ever say. And in Wong Iba's case, his silence spoke volumes. To the world, Wong Iba was a symbol of control. Precise dance moves, perfect performances, and never a misstep in public. But the truth is, being perfect all the time comes at a price. A high one. One that doesn't always show up in headlines, but lurks quietly behind the eyes. As the pressure mounted over the years, from starring in blockbuster dramas like The Untamed, being a hero, and Luoyang, to juggling his career in music, racing, and endorsements, Iba never let it show. His smile stayed faint, his answers stayed brief, and his image stayed unbreakable. But fans noticed. They noticed the subtle shift. The way his expression dimmed even during fan meetings meant to be joyful. The way he answered fewer personal questions in interviews. The growing pause before he spoke, as if measuring each word like it was a risk. He wasn't just tired, he was drained. The entertainment world demands light, but often leaves its stars in the shadows. Iba had become a machine of excellence, but machines break too. Some sources from within the industry hinted at deeper issues, mental fatigue, emotional burnout, long stretches of isolation. The kind of silence that feels more like screaming on the inside. And yet, he never spoke out. Because that's who Wong Iba is, a silent fighter. He doesn't ask for help. He doesn't cry in front of cameras. He holds it in, wraps it tight, and keeps walking like nothing's wrong. But no one can carry the weight of fame, expectation, and loneliness forever. Until that night, the night Xiao Zhan walked in. In that one moment of reunion, something inside Iba softened. And in that softening, a piece of the puzzle revealed itself. The longing in his eyes, the quiet closeness he kept throughout the show, the subtle touch on Xiao Zhan's sleeve. It wasn't drama. It wasn't performance. It was a man reaching out, perhaps not even realizing how badly he needed to. A moment of truth that couldn't be scripted. That brief connection, just standing next to someone who had once known him beyond the spotlight, may have been the only comfort Iba had felt in months. Not from fans, not from staff, but from someone who had seen him at his most vulnerable, and hadn't looked away. In that moment, his cold eyes warmed. His struggle peeked through the cracks. And for the first time in a long time, the armor came off just a little. We may never know the full story behind Iba's silence. But that single night gave us a glimpse into a heart that has long been misunderstood. A soul fighting a quiet war in a loud world. And sometimes that glimpse is more than enough to break yours. In a world where words often fail, sometimes the greatest act of love is simply showing up. Quietly, gently, completely. Xiao Zhan is no stranger to storms. He's faced public backlash, relentless media scrutiny, and the overwhelming highs and lows that come with being one of China's most beloved actors. And yet, through it all, he's carried himself with quiet dignity and grace, never demanding attention, but always commanding respect. But that night, in the brief, electric silence shared with Wong Iba, it wasn't Xiao Zhan the celebrity who showed up. It was Xiao Zhan the person, the friend, the quiet anchor in someone else's chaos. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. His presence alone said everything. The moment he walked onto the stage, the shift in Wong Iba's demeanor was palpable. The distance Iba had kept from everyone else seemed to vanish. He stood a little closer. He lingered a little longer, as if the very air between them held something fragile but real, a shared past, a shared understanding. And Xiao Zhan responded, not with grand gestures or forced smiles, but with something even rarer, a calm, knowing stillness. He didn't flinch when Iba's hand brushed against his sleeve. He didn't move away when Iba leaned just slightly into his space. He didn't interrupt, didn't act surprised. He simply accepted, held the space open, gave Iba something most people never think to give, room to be vulnerable. Because Xiao Zhan knew. He knew what it's like to be misunderstood, to be strong when you're breaking inside, to wear a smile while your world is cracking beneath your feet. And in that moment, he extended that silent wisdom to the one person who perhaps needed it most. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't dramatic. It was human, and that's why it mattered. In the eyes of millions watching, it was just a brief reunion between two co-stars of the Untamed, two actors whose on-screen chemistry had once set the internet ablaze. But to those who followed them, who've seen the quiet unraveling behind the scenes, it was something else entirely. It was a moment of emotional rescue. A hand reached out without words. A comfort offered without obligation. A reminder that even when the world forgets who you are behind the fame, someone still remembers. Not the headlines, not the performances, but you. And sometimes that memory, that recognition, is enough to keep someone from falling too far. Xiao Zhan didn't need to say anything. His silence spoke louder than any interview ever could. Because when someone you once trusted shows up again, without demands, without expectations, you remember what it's like to feel safe. And in a world as loud and demanding as theirs, safety is the rarest gift of all. Ordinarily, a moment like this would cause a fandom frenzy. Screaming, shipping, wild speculation. But this time, it was different. What followed wasn't chaos, but calm. The comment sections weren't filled with gossip, but gratitude. Thank you, Xiao Zhan, for standing beside him. I've never seen Iba look this vulnerable. This wasn't acting. This was a soul reaching for an anchor. Within hours, fans created slow-motion edits, emotional fan videos, and soft music overlays. Not to glorify the stars, but to capture a moment that resonated so deeply. A connection that reminded everyone watching of how human their idols truly are. Since The Untamed aired in 2019, the bond between Wong Iba and Xiao Zhan has sparked both admiration and endless theories. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, but what followed behind the scenes has always remained beautifully ambiguous. Was that night just nostalgia? A brief flicker of the past? Or something deeper? Something ongoing, unseen, but unbroken? We may never know. But for the fans who watched Iba that night, who felt the quiet plea in his gaze and the stillness of his stance, there was no need for words. The story told itself, in silence, in touch, in presence. In an industry that demands perfection, where vulnerability is often hidden behind makeup, PR teams, and rehearsed smiles, what Wong Iba showed that night was nothing short of rare. He showed his humanness, his need, his fragility, and Xiao Zhan answered not with speeches, but with presence. Sometimes just being there is enough to hold someone together. Will we ever hear the full story? Probably not. There may never be interviews, no confirmations, no open statements. But to those who witnessed that night, who felt it, nothing more needs to be said. It wasn't fan service. It wasn't marketing. It was real. What did you see in that moment? Do you believe it was just a fleeting spark? Or the echo of something long buried but never truly lost? Let us know in the comments below. We're not just watching a story unfold. We're feeling it together. Thank you for watching and sharing this emotional journey with us. If you felt something in this story, even just a whisper of connection, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We bring you more than news. We bring you the untold truths, the hidden feelings, and the silent dramas that linger between glances and gestures. Stay tuned for our next video, where emotions speak louder than headlines. Until next time, remember, sometimes the quietest moments carry the loudest truths.